Bonjour, welcome everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today you can see I have a new mic. I'm still getting used to it. As you know, I had so many issues with my wireless Rode mic. I ship it back. They hopefully are gonna fix it. I don't have any news about it. So I'm gonna call them on Monday and check what's going on. But for today's video, I thought, well, it looks like I have a podcast mic. So why don't we talk about podcast? So I'm gonna give you the 5 podcasts that I recommend that I've been listening to or that I just started listening to. And they might not be the 10 best photography podcasts. If you do a Google search, I'm probably not gonna give you those ones. So I hope that there will be new podcasts that you will like as much as I like them. So let's get started. So why talking about podcasts? Well, because when we are wildlife photographer, landscape photographers, very often we have to drive to our location. I mean, I'm really lucky. I shoot a lot of local wildlife at the pond. I don't have to get to my car. But right now, the wildlife, I've been so spared that I need to go and, travel a little bit further to find my subjects. So why I travel, I don't like to waste my time. I mean, sure, I like to look at the landscape and drive, but sometimes you get stuck in traffic or, you have a really, really long road and you need the company because you're all alone in your car. Podcasts are great. And photography podcasts are an excellent way to keep on learning as you're driving to your location or get inspired or think of a new approach to your photography. So here are my 5 best podcasts that I have right now that I'm listening to. So, podcast number 1 that I really recommend is called the Outdoor Photography Podcast. And she's actually a kind of a neighbor because I'm in New Hampshire and she's on the next state over, so in Vermont. And I first met her at one of our meetings with my camera club, and I enjoy a talk so much that I then check a podcast. She also has a photography school. I also highly recommend it. I'm going to put the link below for a podcast, and then you can also access a website if you are interested. What I really, really like is that a podcast are every week, and she invites leaders in the outdoor industry to talk about their approach to creativity, connecting with nature, and working safely and comfortably in the outdoor. So I highly recommend it. There is one podcast that I was listening to a month and a half ago. It was episode 45 with John Barkley. It was so inspiring. They talk about GAP, grounded, aware, and present. Go and give it a listen. Podcast number 2 that I recommend is called Impact, the Conservation Photography Podcast. And it's by Jamie, and she's great. She's out in Oregon. She's actually going to be a guest in our camera club in a few weeks. I cannot wait. I actually heard of her first when I was watching a live Facebook event from Hunts, and she was one of the guests. And she's all about conservation and helping others to get published, to master their craft, and to really promote conservation. So I highly, highly recommend it. Super, super inspiring podcast. So if you are really, really into conservation, which really, as wildlife photographers, we should all be, or macro photographers, we should all be, it is the podcast for you. She has guests on and she's showcasing their work. I've learned so much from a podcast. Another very, very inspiring podcast. So you are going to learn about conservation, ethic. You're going to learn about how to create your business and be a photographer that is published and publishes on conservation. So great, great thing. Another podcast that's really on top of my list. Now, podcast number 3, it's called Wild and Exposed. It sounds like it could be a show right out of Nat Geo. And it's basically a collective of wildlife photographers who are sharing their adventures and all their, tips and tricks for being an outdoor photographer. They also have guests. They talk about technique. They talk about gear. Great podcast. I've only watched a few episodes of their podcast, but I really enjoyed it. That's why I'm recommended it, and it's on my library right now. So, as soon as I can find some time to drive around when I go to class, that's what's on right now, catching up on more episodes. And they actually had one episode with my friend and mentor, Lehi, who is an OM System ambassador. And that's what, got me to listen to their podcast. Really enjoyed it. And talking about Lehi, he actually just started his own podcast, and I cannot wait because he's so knowledgeable, so much fun to listen to. So he's my podcast number 4 that I would recommend you. So in his podcast, he's examining the creative, technical, and unpredictable elements of photographing in the outdoor, in the wild. He's out of Texas in Big Bend. He has a lot of experience with the wild. He has always either, a snake or a frog or whatever in hand. He's really a fun photographer to follow. Again, I'm going to put this podcast in the links below so you can have a listen. He publishes every 2 weeks. So right now you can go and listen to his first podcast, which is basically an introduction about what his podcast is about and who he is. And I'm sure you're going to love this podcast. And I'm not saying that because Lee is a good friend of mine. I'm a big fan of his work, and he was an amazing mentor. So I know this podcast, we're going to learn a lot and also have a lot of laugh. So I can't wait for the next episodes. And then my last podcast, number 5, is maybe one that some of you might be more familiar with. It's called Photo Taco, and it's by Jeff. Great podcast. When I started photography, that was one of the podcasts that I would listen a lot. I really like his format. He talks a lot about techniques, gears. He's been posting less and less, but there are so many episodes that are still very current and that can help you out. So I would recommend to go back, look at the different topic he has, see what would be a good fit for you. So here it is. Those are my 5 podcasts that I will recommend for when you're traveling, and you can, still learn about photography while driving, because let's be honest, you can't be driving and clicking. That doesn't work, except if you have a driver. But otherwise, just it's a great way to get on your location and keep on thinking about photography. So I hope this video was informative, and please, if you are not a subscriber already, make sure that you click the subscribe button. That helps me a lot to know if you're enjoying the video, and also post a comment. Let me know what else you would like to see from my videos. I know some of you have been asking about videos in French. I'm going to start doing a few videos in French, so hopefully very soon. I'll be on vacation. I'm nearly done teaching in a few weeks, so I have more time to make more videos for you. And also, please keep up the discussions. Let me know what podcast you are recommending. Maybe I've seen a few really great podcasts in the UK that I would like to listen to. So just let me know wherever you are, what are the podcasts that you're listening to improve your photography. And I will see you next week. Au revoir.